it's so important for all of us that we step into who we're meant to be and how we're meant to serve, because when each of us is in our lane and we're feeling good, that's how we can elevate the entire collective.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast where I interview space holders from all over the world. I am your host, my name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show we have Jordan, the Gene Keys guide, and also the creator of Cosmic Skin. Welcome to the show, Jordan. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Finally, we worked it out. And yeah, thank you for inviting me and thank you for having me on your show.
I am very excited to talk to you because I literally just touched a little bit upon the topic of gene keys, maybe like 2 months ago with my friend, and I would really love to know all about it because it's. I know that it's another method of like kind of like a typology that you can look into, and I know a lot
Mhm.
about Enneagram, which is a personality typology. I know a little bit about MBTI. I know a little bit about numerology
Ooh.
and a tiny bit about astrology, but gene keys is something else. So it is really interesting for me. The types of the keys, I guess, that you can have. And I don't know almost anything about it. Okay. I just know my profile. I looked into it once. And so I'm super excited to know more because
Yeah.
I believe that it can really bring us a lot of awareness of ourselves and how we present ourselves to the world. So that's super exciting for me today. But before we jump into this topic of gene keys, I would love to know your story and a little bit about you and how you got to do what you're doing and why gene keys are the main thing that or one of the main things that you're doing. And yeah, please share your story with us.
All right. Big question. Pretty long story, but I'll give you the Coles Notes version. So, I've always loved cosmic wisdom. I think I started studying astrology when I was like 8 years old. It was introduced to me by my stepmom at the time, and she opened up this world of spirituality to me at a very young age, where she would bring me into those like it's things have changed a lot in the last probably 10 years, but at the time you'd have to go into those like stores, those like weird stores that would have just like, well, they're beautiful, but crystals and cards, like they're just like a little bit older, like esoteric vibe, right? And she'd take me in there and show me little crystals for my purse and show me about the angels and all these things. So I started to learn about myself through the lens of astrology when I was very young, and I was just super like obsessed and enamored by spirituality. And then, life happens, and I got to my teen years and 20s, and I, fell into the path that most of us take, which is, go to school, get a good job, you need to pay the bills, corporate life, this kind of thing. And so I kind of lost that connection a little bit along the way, and I just dove into partying and working and things like that in my early 20s. And then, around my Saturn return, which is around age 27 or so, my purpose came knocking at my door, as it does for us, and things started to shift in my life where I wasn't so connected to the things around me anymore. And my job was one of those things that was like really first to kind of transition out of my life. And, through this like rediscovery of my spirituality, I was diving into all different types of modalities and kind of reconnected back with this like obsession with the cosmos that I had. So at the time, I was digging really into astrology and human design and loving it and feeling a pull in this direction to share, but I was very afraid of it. I definitely had a ton of resistance because at the time I was working in corporate finance, which is very different from what I do now. And one day, I just decided I had had enough of this 9 to 5 life. It just wasn't, it was actually like making me ill in a lot of ways. So I just decided to like quit. I literally quit my job without a plan B, with like nothing else lined up. And it was such a gift to have the space for, months, almost a year, to just kind of remember who I am and to explore options for how I wanted to serve, right? Which is a concept that goes far deeper than just working, right? We're here to really serve through our gifts. So I was exploring what this looked like. At the time, I thought that it would be maybe human design, but I was feeling a lot of, it was a no. It was a no inside. And then one day, the Gene Keys just fell onto my lap. Literally, as any of these things enter our lives, I started hearing people talking about the Gene Keys. I started to um, hear it on podcasts or through conversation. And I was like, what is this? I know all of these different methods. What could possibly be new? And I ordered the book, The Gene Keys. So that's kind of like the Gene Keys Bible. Like, human design would have like the Human Design Bible. I forget what it's called, but I was like so activated by this text. I just remembered everything that was being presented in this material. And I looked at my profile and I was like, holy, holy shit. Sorry to swear there. I was just, I'm not sure if you're okay with that on the podcast.
Yeah, I am. I'm
And I
okay
was
with
just like,
100% authentic self-expression.
oh, okay, I love that. Love it. We need to swear sometimes, right?
Yes.
It fits. So I was looking at, I was looking at my Gene Keys profile, and it was like the culmination of all the work I had been doing for the past, 3 to 5 years prior, where I was like dismantling all of these things in my life and so much was changing and I was healing so much. And it was all captured on this one profile. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so incredibly powerful. And the different concepts that it includes about, our frequency and an energy spectrum and, alignment with the archetypes that want to like live and breathe through us, it just sparked something in me and I just dove in and, you know, I decided to share it. And the way that I've shared the Gene Keys has changed quite a bit over that time. But I started with the intention of just like, I just needed people to know about this system. And then it kind of just like took on a life of its own. And now it is my business. It's my career and it's my service. So that's my story.
Beautiful. That's amazing. I love your story. And so, what is it about the Gene Keys for you that specifically makes you feel so drawn to it and that you chose it? Like, what is it about it? Is it because it was resonating so much? Is it because
Mhm.
it's familiarity somehow? Like, what is it?
Definitely the resonance has been there since day one. It's very accurate. It's so accurate that in my experience in my life and working with clients, it's like a pure transmission that just like hits your soul. Like having a Gene Key session or even, looking at your own profile, it reminds you of all of these different elements of who you are and your life story, and it just kind of composes it in this one profile, this like one piece of paper. And that just blew me away. And I think it was my study of other cosmic systems before that I could understand its accuracy. But I think my favorite part right from the beginning was the concept of a frequency spectrum. And this resonated so deeply with me because we don't operate with this like black and white energy, right? We're composed of energy, which is so many shades of gray and infinite levels of frequency. So to me, the idea that our gifts are on the other side of our deepest fears was poetry to me. It was so beautiful. And I could finally like reconcile these things I knew about myself that were, positive and life affirming, and the gifts I had to share with also what I would experience as like resistance and block on the other side.
So I would love to know all about different keys, because I know that there are some specific types of the keys, right? I mean, I don't even remember which one I am, to be honest, because I only read it
Yeah.
once. But I would love to, chat a little bit about what are they, and like maybe a little bit about each of them, or what, in a big shortcut, because I know that there is a lot you can say about each
Yeah.
key. The same about, if you have a typology of personality, you can talk for hours about each type. But I would love if you could talk at least a little bit about each type, because then maybe some people can be like, "Ooh, that sounds like me, that resonates,"
Hmm.
and then people could be curious and check it out. So yeah, I would love you to
Sure.
share.
So the thing about the gene keys that's different from other cosmic systems as well is like, for example, instead of there being 12 signs in astrology, there's 64 in the gene keys. So to speak on each gene key, there's 64 of them. But the idea of the gene keys is that we are composed, like each of us are composed of all 64, right? So regardless of, I could speak on any gene key and we'll all resonate with that as truth because they make up who we are. But the difference is when we pull up our profile, you get a picture of 11 that are highlighted within your system. So the picture of your profile looks like obviously a graphic, and there's little bubbles that are called spheres in your profile, and there's 11 bubbles. And these spheres are the same for each of us, and they're specific to an expression of self or an area of life. And then we get to look at the gene key that lives in there. And then the information that's combined between the two is what tells the story of us or a piece of our story. So maybe I'll break down the profile a little bit first and just share kind of like what we can uncover when we look at it. So there's three different sequences or pathways. The first is our gift path or our activation sequence, and this shows the 4 gifts you're here to share. So it's always where we start when you're super new to the gene keys, because these are the 4 pillars of you. And then you're going to get 4 gene keys within that area of your profile. And you'll see that those are the archetypes or the energies that wanting to express or live through you. So that's a great place to start, right? And then you look at the numbers and you'll have 1 through 64. So for example, my life's work sphere, which is my main gift I'm here to share, is in gene key 48. Do you have your profile with you? I wish we did this before.
somewhere
Okay.
somewhere but we can talk about mine, but we can also talk about yours, just to give people some kind of
Yeah.
example of how they can read it and what exactly we can discover about ourselves, because this is what I would like to know, like what kind of
Yep.
information does the profile of Jinkies give
Yeah,
us, you
sure.
know?
So it gives us a ton of information. It's at a high level, it's going to show you where you're evolving to in this lifetime. So it's going to give you a picture of your highest potential. And if you were living in complete alignment with your energetic signature, like this most authentic expression of you, you would be able to see that you'll see that in your profile. And you're also going to see in your profile all of the shadows that you're working through in order to express this highest frequency aspect of self. And this is,
Ooh, shadows.
yeah, so fun. Do you love shadow work?
I love
Yeah.
shadow work. I do shadow work for work. So for
Ooh,
me, it's like,
okay.
ooh, and we can discover the shadows. Yay!
Okay. The shadow work aspect of the gene keys is one of the most profound elements of the system, absolutely. And like I love shadow work as well. I'm a Scorpio midheaven, so it's like literally what I exude. Um, and what's really beautiful about the Gene Keys profile is, speaking like a little bit on this before, it's the frequency spectrum. So when you look at your profile, you're going to see those 11 numbers, which are your gene keys. And then beside each of your gene keys, there's three keywords. So there's the shadow is the lower frequency. It's the first word on the bottom. And then you have the gift. And then you have what's called the city frequency, which is basically it's three like benchmark words of how elevated or how less elevated we can be within that expression. So we get to look at all 11 keywords of our particular shadow, and it's like this beautiful shortcut to getting to dive into those places within ourselves so we can see them, so we can heal them, and actually express the higher expression of our gene keys. So I'll give you an example of me. Um, let's go with the culture sphere. This one's fun for everybody, especially entrepreneurs, because we always want to know how we can serve at our highest and also make money for doing it, right? So there's a sphere in your Gene Keys profile called the culture sphere, and this placement, whatever gene key you have here, is about this role that you serve in society. It's like a call for why you're here. And I like to say if we were all doing this like big project in the world and every single person was a part of it, which we kind of are, this would be your role. And when you step into that role, right, when you get to express that role as its highest potential, you make money doing it. You get blessed with all of the material rewards of this material realm because we're saying yes to our call, right? And then the shadow frequency of this gene key, whatever you have there, actually kind of zaps your personal power. It holds us back from expressing that true aspect of self publicly. So I have gene key 8 there. And for your listeners, they're going to have a number 1 to 64. And that's their gene key. So I have gene key 8 here. Gene key 8 is a leadership gene key, and it's one that requires that you to step outside of the box, right? So it's the type of leader that makes choices and stands out as quite different from the norm and travels, down the road less traveled. And it's the type of leader that inspires through their own life and their own decisions. Like other people look at that person, right? And say, oh my gosh, she's living so authentically. I'm inspired to do the same. Like I can do that too. I can do something different, right? So for me, the more I step into that role that I'm destined for and to be seen as this leader who is different, like Gene Key can be kind of eccentric as well. The more I step into my material prosperity, the more I step into my fulfillment. And then the shadow frequency, right? Because there's two sides to every gene key placement. So for me, my shadow in this place is about fearing rejection, about not wanting to stand out and be seen and to be very much in that energy of like, what are people going to think about me? Are they even going to like it? Is this too weird? Is it too much? And just kind of shrinking back in that individual expression. So I have absolutely lived this story since the beginning of my life, and we do, right? I always say, like, when you look at your Gene Keys profile, this is not new information. This is your story. So it's nothing that's telling you who you need to be or how you need to be. It's more of this portal into your soul to understand what's always been happening through you and creating through you. So for me, along my journey to sharing this work and leaving a job that was more corporate and definitely like very mainstream was part of my path to my fullest expression, and in fact connected to my ability to create wealth and abundance for myself. So the more I step into that light and heal also what lives in that shadow, right? All those stories that I hold about being rejected and you're so weird and standing out and those things that live inside of me, I express the high frequency more naturally. And that's the story for everybody in each of their gene keys, each of their spheres, with a little different flavor.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is.
That sounds really amazing to know all these things. But one question that comes to my mind when you're talking about it is like, is this kind of predetermined? So is it our, signature and something that, okay, this is it and this is how it is? And so knowing this, can it help us shift in terms of like, okay, now I know this, so now I can make changes in my life accordingly because this is the truth and this is how it's going to
Mhm.
be? Or it's like, okay, this is what you chose as a kind of like a design coming to this life. So now, if you go through these lessons, for example, overcoming this fear of rejection,
Mhm.
now through the awareness that you have this inside of your system, you can actually work on it and shift it, right? Because like how does it
Mhm.
work? How do you approach it? As like something like as a potential that could appear in your life, something like a guideline to guide you in a specific direction, or something that, okay, now I have awareness of it, now I can shift it and direct my life in a different way.
That's such a good question. All is the short answer. Um, I love to work with the gene keys in two ways, but first, I truly believe that have the ability at any time to shift into our highest frequency expression. Like, just because we see shadows in our profile doesn't mean that we're like doomed to experience this over and over and over again. Really, our shadows are there lighting our way forward to our destiny, to our fullest alignment. So when we and I'll get more into like how we can literally work with our gene keys in a practical way because that's what I love. That's what I share in the system. When we are traveling down this path of elevating our frequency through those our gene key expressions, right? We get to connect with different expressions of it, right? So, like that shadow of rejection doesn't show up for me anymore in work. It might in the future. I might come up against it, but I can talk to anybody at any time about the gene keys, and I absolutely hold no resistance to expressing it. I used to have so much shadow when I would talk about this part of myself, right? Let alone do it for work, but I may come across that in other elements, and it will look and feel different. So it is definitely our path that we're traveling, but it's like, I like to say it's like a video game where we're moving along and we're passing the levels and we're beating the big bosses and like whatever it is, right? And we're still traveling like through our worlds, through ourselves, but it's going to take on different form, and we connect with the higher frequencies as we go. So again, like, I believe we all have the potential to express our absolute highest version of self in this life. I don't think any of us are doomed to anything. And to answer your question like a little more practically, I love to share that we can connect with the high frequencies, right? Which is like the goal of our Gene Keys profile in two ways, two main ways, right? And the first is we can literally look at our profile and look at the different placements in our profile and like through our mind reflect on or brainstorm or whatever you want to call it, the ways that we can express that high frequency energy. For myself, it's like, well, if I know that leadership is part of my service and my prosperity in this life, then I better step into a leadership position, right? Somehow. So we can be very literal about how we're choosing to express that energy because that energy wants to live and breathe through us. And the more we can create these like funnels for it to do so, that's that feeling of alignment. And then probably the other way that we work with our profile, and this is more of my medicine, at least at this point, is looking at the shadow frequency, right? So we can connect with the high frequency through, okay, how can I express this energy? And then we heal the shadow frequency by moving into it and understanding what lives there. So, like as a journal prompt for anybody who's interested, you just look at that shadow keyword with a little understanding about what that is, right? And then just journaling through how has this presented in my life in the past, and you're going to come up against all of these different stories. You're going to come up against belief patterns and fears and all of these things that have happened to you and that you've seen, and you'll be able to see exactly what lives there and what's needing to be healed. And then once we see those stories, we get to rewrite them. We can literally rescript them. And this is another way that we connect with the high frequencies of our profile. Because if there's less that lives in like the dense areas, then we get to just create more light through them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a little bit like with the typology of personality that I'm really passionate about, which is
Ooh.
Enneagram. And it's also like, okay, it's a typology and you can see your
Yeah.
shit in there. You can see what kind of programs you have, what kind of beliefs can block you. But then once you know it, once you see it, it's like, okay, I can utilize, for example, I'm a loyalist, a wing enthusiast, so I can utilize my ability to be extroverted and connect to people in a way that I'm doing, for example, the podcast, or I can look into my shadow of feeling lonely, for
Mhm.
example, because of some abandonment wound, and then go through the loneliness and go through the shadow and then feel more whole within myself, even if I don't have people around me, right? So it's kind of like similar, but it's a different typology to look at. So that's great because that means that it's only like a guide or something that we can utilize for our own growth. It doesn't mean that, okay, this is how it is, you have this fear of rejection and you cannot do anything about it. It's more like, ooh, there could be a fear of rejection, so what am I gonna do about it right now? Because I'm a conscious creator and I can do anything with my
Mhm.
life that I want. So right now, knowing that, what is gonna happen, how I'm gonna
Yeah.
move forward from here, having this knowledge and wisdom about myself that I know. So that's really inspiring, and thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And I would love if you could also share about how the Gene Keys, um, like the profile or
Mhm.
knowing about your profile has changed you, or maybe even some nice stories from your clients. Like what has shifted within them? How did it help them?
Yeah, so I mean, it's changed my life just because I literally share this system for work. It, it, well, I serve mostly entrepreneurs, right? So, like, I believe the people we attract into our medicine often reflect those elements of us, or at least the path that we've traveled so far. So, for myself, le leaving the corporate world, the 9 to 5 life, and creating my own business and that I love, and I get to manage my time as I wish every day and actually serve through my natural gifts is something that I have achieved or I have gotten to. And so the mostly women that come into my world are women who are, visionaries and they're wanting to step into sharing their gifts as well. So my gosh, I mean, most of the women that I work with, the Gene Keys help guide them to opening their own businesses and stepping into more prosperity in their businesses as well, right? So, like leaving their corporate 9 to 5, creating more freedom and more um, time, literally, in their life to do what they wish and to serve as they wish, and then also guiding them towards more success in their career. So there's two paths and two sequences if this is of interest, right? This is kind of like my main medicine. The gift path, which is your activation sequence, and then your pearl sequence. Those two places you're really going to look at for, your gifts and the way that you're going to serve. So generally, like I lead women through these pathways so that they can connect with what am I actually here sharing? How am I going to share in a way that's most resonant with other people or most natural to me. So I mean, I can't even count probably the amount of women that I've sat with and helped walk through that actual experience of being afraid to leave a world and a lifestyle that we see as the only way, right? And then helping them walk through their specific shadows in order to connect and share with their gifts and actually change those elements that are not fulfilling for themselves and step into service and working for themselves. So that would be like, it's not very specific. And in my life, going back to Gene Key 8, with it being in my culture sphere, that aspect of stepping into leadership And now I'm just seeing it tied to other placements in my profile, right? Because they all kind of mix and mingle together. So we can get really focused on one specific gene key, but they all like live off of each other and breathe off of each other. So for me, literally sharing the gene keys is in my gene keys. And the more that I have done that, exactly. It's
That's
so
funny.
funny. So when you ask how they changed my life, I'm like, well, they've literally like changed my life in such a literal way because now I share that for work as, my medicine. And, I went from working in a corporate world and being burnt out and unfulfilled and very much off course, just and everything that that creates as an energy field in my life, right? I was just like living for the weekend, moving through Monday to Friday, like so tired, so unfulfilled. And I get to the weekend and I would just like party and that was the lifestyle, right? That's the norm, that's the lifestyle. And so following my path through the gene keys in the ways that we've talked about have literally shifted me into I can wake up my business supports me and now I can wake up every day and I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work at all. And I can go for a coffee at 10 in the morning if I want. I can take the afternoon off work if I want. And I can meet my sister, hang out, do these things that I could only have dreamed of before. So that's that's the way they've changed my life. And specifically, it's through that culture sphere, right? Like showing up as that leader and healing the shadows around fearing taking the path less traveled. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. And so, based on the work that you already did with women and entrepreneurs, like what do you feel like is the biggest block that people feel from, not stepping into their power and into their dream
Mhm.
life? Because, I always say like I'm living my dream life. I love my job. I love my life. I'm traveling where I want. Like I freaking live
I
the
love it.
dream, and some people are like, yeah, you're lucky, or yeah, you, but I'm like, no, everyone can
Yes.
do this. Every single person can do this. It's just that there is so many blockages, there is so many limits to our beliefs, our emotions, and just so much going on in our mind that is just stopping us from taking the step and going
Hmm.
for it. So what did you find in your work that was this biggest block,
Hmm.
or maybe top three, if you'd like to share, for people to just not live their dream life?
Fear, just straight up. And specifically with entrepreneurship or living more of a free lifestyle, I believe that we collectively don't really have the belief structure that naturally holds people in that transition. So it's like if you're going to decide to live against the grain, then you're kind of electing yourself to be, like we were saying before, the creator of your own destiny. And that comes with so much freedom and it comes with so much responsibility because now we're responsible for all of it, right? We're responsible for paying our bills and holding ourselves in integrity with who we are every single day. We don't have this framework to live within. So that would be the biggest transition point, I would say. Working with women entrepreneurs is actually leaving that like nesty feeling that we have when we're seeing other people who are like us and being rewarded for those things and saying, actually, like, I know that's, for the most of the people that I'm looking at, but I want to take this path. And that path doesn't really have the way carved yet. So that there's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of fear there. The big fears would be, do I have what it takes, right? Self-worth, literally self-worth, clarity and self-trust. So it's like I know what I love, but do I trust myself enough to take that leap of faith and bet on myself? And then another piece is definitely what are other people going to think? What will people say? Because when we're kind of shaky on that process, it does matter to us what's going on around us, and then we get more solid in those choices within, and then all of a sudden it doesn't matter what's going on outside. So yeah, that you were sharing, it's definitely a subconscious belief system that's either, that's why things are easy or why things feel more challenging. And with the gene keys, a really beautiful piece of the medicine as well is as we're traveling along this path to our highest expression that we can actually see in our profile, our shadows will actually kind of catch up with us when we're making these big transition points. So when you're actually choosing to step into more of your light and do something that feels scary, you're going to see as you move through into sharing your gifts or into your gifts or your more, aligned expression of your life, those shadows are going to be right beside you. They're going to say, "Are you sure? You know, are you sure you have what it takes?" All of these different stories will come up, and that's actually the best green light to keep going because it means you're at that kind of edge point where you're just being asked to grow a little bit more, and that's what creates that transformation and that alchemy.
Mm.
So I embedded in my work deeply is subconscious belief work because we really do need to understand the beliefs that we need to hold for our dreams to actually land on. So I do have what it takes. You know, depending on what you're doing, but we need to create that strong belief foundation so that it's easeful. Our transition is easeful.
Mm. Yeah, I completely resonate with everything you said because I can even recognize myself in the past. Like, what are the people are gonna think if I just do something spiritual now for work? And I'm a master of sustainable energy. I'm an engineer, and I was just like, I knew just because my spiritual awakening was just before I started my master's
Wow.
studies. So even entering my master's, I'm like, is it actually worth studying or not, because I'm gonna go into the spirituality rather than my sustainable energy. But the funny fact is, I still work with sustainable energy, just human energy now, not
Yes.
nature energy, like not solar panels and wind power, just our energy, which is still energy
Yes.
work that I do kind of. And so yeah, and I was just like, I actually, after the first semester of my master's, I even took a gap year so that I can go on a fast for 3 weeks and I can discover myself and my soul. But I remember thinking like, oh, what is gonna my family, what is my family gonna say? Because they all wanted me to finish studies and be an engineer. And I said to myself like, okay, universe, you're gonna decide. If I get to Singapore for this semester, I'm gonna go. Because like, who will say no to going to Singapore for 5 months for a semester, right? I'm like, universe, handle it for me. If I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna continue studying. If I don't, I'm not. And then I got to the Singapore for exchange. I'm like, okay, the universe has decided for me, then I'm gonna go for it. And I finished the studies, and it's a blessing that I did, because when I went to Australia for my last semester, I met my ex-partner, and it was a beautiful journey that I've had
Aw.
with him. Um, and so there was a reason behind this. But my point is that I had so many moments in my life where I was like, can I be a coach and NLP, practitioner, and then a healer and everything, or is it going to be like, am I going to meet some rejection or whatever? And of course I did.
Mhm.
There was a massive resistance from some of my friends and some of my family,
Mhm.
but the people that are meant to stay with you when you transit from one place to
Mhm.
the other are going to
Yep.
stay anyway. And if people who are there are people who are going to leave you or reject you or whatever else, resist you for what you're doing and what your true calling is, then they better
Yeah.
leave. Because like, you cannot have people in your life that are not aligned with you and with your highest mission and vision. And if you connect to your heart and you really trust it and you go for it, then, oh, so what if you're gonna lose some people? I mean, maybe it's harshly
Mhm.
put, but the thing is that you always will attract new people that will resonate with your new energy and your new frequency. And sometimes you need to put some, maybe more work into that, to find these people, to find your new tribe. But the reality is that your vibe attracts your tribe. So if you expand and go, like, more into your vision, more into your mission and your soul's
Mhm.
purpose in life, you're gonna meet more people who are on their soul's path
Mhm.
as well. And then it's gonna be even more fulfilling for you rather than getting stuck in this, oh, I was supposed to be an engineer and what people are gonna say, or I was supposed to work from, 9 to 5 and earn a lot of money but be freaking
Mhm.
miserable waking up and hating
Mhm.
my job. I mean, this is what would happen really. Like, I mean, I was in Melbourne and I had work in a cafe just making coffee, barista, right? And I was more fulfilled being there making coffee for people than working on my projects about like solar panels and
Yep.
heat pumps and everything. And I was just like,
Yeah.
what is this? I can be more fulfilled just being around people and serving them and bringing them coffee than working on this thing, which I just chose for pretty much
Yes.
safety, right? And certainty, because I knew that if I finish my master's as a sustainable energy engineer, I'm going to have a lot of job offers and safety. But would it be fulfilling?
Mhm.
No, never. It would never be fulfilling for me. And now I feel so fulfilled that I can run this podcast, I can coach people, I can heal or help people heal, really guide them to heal themselves. And it's just so rewarding and fulfilling that I really wish for everyone who listens to really get in touch with your soul's purpose. And maybe you can contact Jordan and discover your gene key and go into this direction that your soul desires you to go, because truly miracles can happen in your life if you do this, if you follow your path, if you follow your
Mhm.
heart. And then you are going to have people around you that are going to be aligned. So yeah,
I
i
love
i'm just
it.
really passionate about this topic, so thank
Yes.
you for bringing it up,
Yes.
because yeah.
That is
This is
beautiful.
really amazing.
And it's so important for all of us that we step into who we're meant to be and how we're meant to serve, because when each of us is in our lane and we're feeling good, that's how we can elevate the entire collective. And when you're doing what you do best and I'm doing what I do best and we're all happy and healthy, we this is how we evolve into a more beautiful place overall. So it's doing it for everybody and yourself and everybody, right? And I love your story. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, I feel like what you're saying is like coming from collaboration instead of competition. Because now I feel like our world is really set up for competition. Like, oh, I'm going to earn more money than you, or I'm going to have a better job and whatever. But if actually everyone just followed their heart, there will be no competition. There will just be alignment and cooperation, because everyone would be aligned so much with themselves and others that there would be no thing. I mean, okay, healthy competition to just want to improve yourself, sure, in a healthy way. But I feel like nowadays we have a lot of unhealthy competition that actually just makes us disconnected rather than connected to each other, which yeah, I think this is important to remember, that when you stay in alignment with your heart, you're gonna feel more alignment with other people as well.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, that's
Yes.
beautiful. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Amazing. I would love to talk a little bit about the cosmic
Mhm.
skin, because the very name of it just makes me so drawn to it
Mhm.
already. But yeah, tell us a little bit about this business that you are a
Yeah.
creator of, and where this idea for cosmic skin came from.
It just dropped in one day. I was feeling this pull. I mean, my work used to just be my name, and I started by doing Gene Keys sessions, profile readings, with people. And over the last 2 years, it's transitioned into more teaching and sharing and creating programs and things like that. That's going to be 2022. And in that evolution of my work, the the name Cosmic Skin came through, and I knew that I wanted to name my business something other than my name, because I wanted the work to speak for itself and to live somewhere outside of just me as like a Gene Keys reader or guide. Um, and I was just kind of incubating names for a really long time. And one day it was like Cosmic Skin. I was like, oh, I love that. That's sexy. And to me, it means, anchoring in your highest self into your experience now, right? So our cosmic skin is that blend of our divinity, but with our experience here as a human being in this life and that connection between the two. And then also, just the symbolism of the snake, because we're always shedding layers, we're always growing into new skin, and this is the process of our life, and it's the journey and why we're here. So Cosmic Skin is my brand. It's where all of my work lives under the umbrella of Cosmic Skin, and who knows what it will turn into in the future, because it feels like a little bit of an entity outside of just myself. So
Well, we can invite all the people who feel aligned with the cosmic skin energy to maybe come and collaborate with you and to share their gifts so that you can share your gifts with the world. And yeah, we are doing this podcast as well to gather people together, as the Soul Fam name indicates, and to create in the future a social networking app for all the conscious people all over the world. So this is the first step on our journey of creating this.
ooh.
So yeah, I'm sure you're gonna find amazing people to collaborate with. So for anyone who feels aligned with your vision and what you're saying right now, what is the best way to find you and to contact
Yeah,
you?
so my website is cosmicskin.co, so cosmicskin.co. Right now, I have barely anything up there because I'm having my website redesigned by the end of the month. So by the end of the month, there will be so much more on the site. Until then, probably my Instagram is the best place to connect with me, and that is at cosmic two underscores skin, cosmic two underscores skin. And yeah, I'm on there often, so you can reach out to me through my DM.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing knowledge and wisdom and your vibes and your, yeah, I just love the conversation, and I'm even more curious about the gene keys now, and I'm going to certainly look into my profile and be like, "Oh, what did she say there? Oh, I'm going to look into it more," cuz yeah, it's really amazing how we can have these kind of structures to show us what is there that we can look into, and especially on this path of awareness that we both are, it's so crucial to sometimes have these indicators and guides for ourselves to know, okay, this is what I can look into, because sometimes, especially because we have such a massive subconscious mind, that we don't know what we don't know, right?
Hmm.
These kind of profiles and typologies can really help us see, because if something comes from the unconscious to the conscious, then we're like, ooh, okay, this is how I can work with this. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing all of this, because it was really valuable. And yeah, I'm sure that everyone who listens got a lot out of
Yeah,
it.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun to share, and thank you for introducing me to your beautiful community.